Hello and welcome to Retro Gaming Banter. Today we are taking a look at a sorry looking Dragon 32 I picked up last year. As always, before powering on, I open computers and consoles to check for any damage such as leaking capacitors. I already had warning signs as the smell test gave me that dreaded smoky leaked capacitor smell, which was not a good sign. There's 4 screws holding the case in place. The security seals were unbroken previously and I had popped the stickers beforehand, so I know at least the internals have not been tampered with. Flipping it back over, the top half of the case comes off and gives us access to the inside. Immediately I can see this is always why you should check before powering on. You can see that the power supply board has got some issues. The capacitors have leaked and there's a fair amount of corrosion on the board, the screws and the case. The main motherboard, however, does not look to be in too bad a condition. So let's get everything taken apart for a closer look. I start with unscrewing the power supply boards. The screw on the top right is very corroded and full of rust. I tried unscrewing it but it wouldn't hold. I didn't want to risk damaging anything, so I put some contact cleaner on the screw and let it work in for a bit before cleaning it up with a cotton bud to remove any rust. This allowed me to get a good hold with a screwdriver and thankfully the screw was free. With that, the power supply cable can be disconnected and then the power board can be removed. There's a lot of corrosion on the back of the board, but it doesn't look very damaged. I will definitely need to replace the capacitors though. One of them was so bad that the leg was already broken off the board. First I want to clean some of the corrosion off to confirm if there is any actual damage to the traces. So using some contact cleaner, I spray it over the affected areas and clean it off with some cotton buds. It looks mainly like the corrosion is superficial and does not damage the board, which is great news. So I finish off cleaning the board, ready to desolder the capacitors. I am not an expert solderer, so yeah, feel free to complain in the comments. Using some desoldering braid and a soldering iron, I suck up all the old solder and the capacitor wires are pretty much falling out. Using the braid I remove any excess solder left for each solder point. Some of the solder would not melt, probably due to the corrosion, so I apply a little fresh solder to the points to help mix in some old and new solder. This eventually gets all of the solder into the braid. Once they have been removed, I spray some isopropyl alcohol and give everything a clean, ready to solder the new capacitors which I have ordered. Thanks to the lockdown in the UK back in late November, the capacitors took a bleeding age to arrive, but yeah, they did get here eventually. Making sure the capacitor wires are in the correct way, I get started on the soldering. It is pretty straightforward and thankfully no surface mounted ones to solder. I didn't have a chance to record it, but off camera I connected just the power board to the power supply and tested it with a multimeter. It was given a 12 and 5 volt power on the correct pins, so everything seems to be working okay now. We will have to wait for the full test to see if there's any other issues. Now that is done, I can move on to the keyboard and the main board. The keyboard is held in place with 2 screws. The keyboard ribbon looked quite fragile to remove, so I decided to leave it connected and remove the keyboard and main board together. The keys are fairly clean looking, so I don't think they will need retrobrighting, just a quick clean in some soapy water. There's a few screws holding the motherboard in place. The case is looking very dirty, but thankfully nothing seems to be cracked or broken. I will get the case prepared for a little retrobrighting, as the lower half of the case is a bit darker than the top. I'll start off with some IPA and go over the board, removing any stuck in dirt and grime. The Dragon 32 label is starting to peel off, so I'm in 2 minds whether or not to keep it. Going around all of the case, I scrub it with a toothbrush and then rinse everything off in water. There are some minor scuff marks and dirt which wouldn't come out, so using some bicarbonate of soda and water, I apply it to these areas and work it in with a toothbrush. It works as a gentle abrasive and removes the dirt from the areas. The Dragon 32 sticker was really peeling off now, so I decided to remove it and order a replica replacement. At least now I can give this area a good scrubbing without worrying about damaging the sticker. Next, I start working on cleaning the bottom of the case. Again, cleaning it with IPA and brushing a few scuffs with bicarbonate. Then it is all rinsed off and ready to retrobrite along with the top half of the case. I have shown the retrobrighting process in my other restoration videos, so to save time I won't show them here, but you can check them out. I'll include the links in the description. The case does not need that long, as the Dragon 32 was originally a beige colour, but the bottom area is a little darker than the top, so I want to try and get those matching at least. Onto the keyboard keys. Overall they are in good condition and just need some soapy water to get off the years of dirt and finger juice. Using a keyboard key puller, I remove all the keys and let them soak in some soapy water for like an hour or so. With my trusty Compu Cleaner air blower, I give the keyboard a quick blast to remove any loose dirt. Then I get some IPA and clean the base of the keyboard to remove any dirt. I will give the keyboard and the main board a quick clean up with some IPA and an anti-static brush, just to remove any dirt and loose debris. I have checked the main board and it all seems to be fine. None of the capacitors have leaked, so for the moment I won't replace them. If the Dragon actually does work, then I can replace them afterwards. I also clean all of the contacts with some contact cleaner, as there has been quite a bit of corrosion. The keys have had a good soak in, so now to clean off and dry them. This is about as much fun as drying off keys one by one. And now to put all the keys back on the keyboard, starting with the usual pain in the arse spacebar. Referring to a photo I took of the keyboard and slightly organising the keys into groups, the rest is fairly straightforward. Later in the day, the top and bottom half of the cases have been slightly retrobrighted, rinsed off and dried. So now it's time to put everything back together and see if the Dragon will wake up from its slumber. The main board and keyboard are fitted first and the covers and screws are put back into place. The power board is fitted in and screwed into place, then the power cable is reattached to the main board. And then the top half of the case is put back into place. As you can see, the top and bottom half are more of a matching beige colour than before. The replacement sticker also finally arrived, so I can now put this on the case. It is a very good replica, pretty much identical to the original. Before powering on, I wanted to clean up the two joysticks that come with the Dragon 32. These joysticks are for the Tandy CoCo, which the Dragon 32 is basically a clone of, so they should be compatible with them. These joysticks are not self-centering, which is really weird if you have never used one before. I will test these on the Dragon, but as with any second-hand equipment I buy, I always give them a good clean and checking over before using. I ordered a new RCA AV cable from Retro Computer Shack, as the alternative is using an RF aerial lead, which is lousy video quality. I've included the link to Retro Computer Shack in the description. And we are done, for the moment at least. Let's get some fingers crossed and wake up the Dragon. So unfortunately the Dragon doesn't like my AV to HDMI converter, which then goes into my capture card and then to the monitor. There's a lot of rapid screen flickering, so I decided not to show a video in case it causes a seizure. So here is a screenshot instead. You will have to excuse the quality as I move everything over to my main TV and record the screen directly with my cameras. If you look closely, there is some interference in the video output. I am not sure what is causing it. It might be the power supply or an issue with a component inside. I will need to look into this further later on. I rarely bother with actual real tape loading, as they usually give me errors due to the age and previous conditions they were kept in. Instead, I use my trusty TZXDuino tape loader, which currently has the MaxDuino firmware installed on it. Basically, this allows you to load cassette tape images from an SD card. The MaxDuino firmware supports a variety of systems, including Amstrad, Spectrum, MSX and Dragon. There are other firmwares which support other systems. I will cover the TZXDuino in more detail in a forthcoming video. So essentially you select a cassette file to load and the TZXDuino acts as a tape player and loads the data through the cassette cable onto your computer. This does mean you have to wait for the games to load, just like the old days. Let's get the classic Chuckie Egg loaded and see if that works. The game didn't let me choose joystick inputs, so I will have to play with the keyboard. The keyboard's a bit clunky to control, but yeah, everything seems to be working fine. I also tried Championship Darts, which also appears to be working fine. Me and the missus played a quick game or two of 501. So everything appears to be working fine apart from some interference with the video output. I am not sure if this is common with the Dragon 32 or if there's an issue with a component inside. I will be looking into this further, as well as replacing the capacitors on the main board. If the power ones failed, then it won't be long before the other ones do. So one more Dragon reference, in that the Dragon has risen and is breathing fire again, albeit with some interference, which I hope can be fixed. This has been a fun retro restore, but due to the delays in getting replacement parts, it has taken just over a month to get it to a working state. And this is probably with 3 or 4 hours of actual work on the Dragon 32. So not much time to fix it, but a lot of time waiting. I hope you have enjoyed the retro restore of this Dragon 32. If I do manage to fix the video interference, I will upload another video with more information. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. It really helps to grow the channel. And I hope to see you in the next video.